The morning was colder than usual, the kind of cold that made your breath turn white the moment it left your lips. Snow covered every rooftop, every lawn, every artificial corner of the Crest Pine HOA neighborhood. The streets looked perfect as expected. The HOA made sure of that. Cleaner than hospitals, whiter than paper, controlled to the point that even fallen leaves felt scared to touch the pavement. Everything was silent, peaceful, pretending to be perfect. But underneath that perfect silence was a heaviness Ethan Cross could feel the moment he stepped outside. Ethan, a man who built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing, a man known for power and precision, hated winter. He hated snowflakes sticking to his suit, hated cold air messing with his schedule, hated anything he could not control. And today, he wanted nothing more than to get into his white SUV, drive to his corporate building, and start the day without surprises. But life was waiting for him, just 20 steps away, holding the biggest shock he had ever seen. As he walked toward his SUV, he saw movement near the community playground. At first he thought it was an animal, something small curled on the ground. But as he stepped closer, his eyebrows pulled together sharply. It wasn't an animal. It was a child. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting alone in the snow. No coat, no boots, no adult. Just a thin pajama shirt and bottoms, both soaked from melted snow. Her tiny feet were buried in frost, red almost to the point of turning purple. Her thin jacket was unbuttoned and useless against the freezing wind. Her hair was damp, sticking to her cheeks. She wasn't even crying properly, just shaking silently, tears mixing with snowflakes as she tried to stay awake. Ethan felt something heavy hit his chest. He walked toward her fast. Hey, sweetheart," he said, voice soft but rushing with concern. "What are you doing out here? Where are your parents?" The girl looked up, her lips trembling as if every word cost her strength. Her eyes were glassy with cold and fear. "Sir, my mom didn't come home last night." Ethan froze in place, the world around him suddenly going quiet. He slowly knelt in front of her. "What do you mean she didn't come home?" The girl sniffed, her small shoulders moving as she breathed out fog. "Mommy said she would be home before my bedtime, but she didn't come," her voice cracked. "I waited for her, and waited, but she didn't come back." Ethan noticed her fingers. Tiny, red, shaking so hard she could barely hold them still. She was freezing. She needed warmth immediately. He removed his thick coat and wrapped it around her small body. She grabbed onto him suddenly, desperately, like someone drowning holding onto the last thing that floated. Her hands flattened against his chest. "Mommy always comes back," she whispered softly. "She never leaves without telling me." Ethan felt something twist in his chest, something protective, something deep. He wasn't used to this feeling. He wasn't used to caring. But something about this little girl's fear hit him harder than anything he had felt in years. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Hannah," she whispered, voice weak. Ethan nodded. "Okay, Hannah, you're safe with me. I'm going to help you. Where do you live?" Hannah pointed weakly toward the row of houses across the street. "There, but it's cold inside. The heater is off. Mommy always turns it on." Ethan lifted her carefully, holding her cold body close to his warm chest. She clung to him tightly, burying her face in his shoulder. And as he carried her toward his SUV, she whispered a sentence that made his entire body freeze. "Sir," Mommy said, "if I ever get scared, look for the man with the snow-colored car." Ethan blinked. "Snow-colored car?" Hannah nodded slowly. She said, "Look for the man with the big white car. She said he's kind. She said he will help you." Ethan turned his head toward his own SUV, large, white, spotless, parked right in front of them. His heartbeat slowed, heavy and confused. Why would her mother tell her that? Why would a woman he barely knew trust him with her child? Why would she think he could help? Something was wrong, very wrong. Ethan placed Hannah inside the warm SUV and turned up the heater. She held onto his sleeve even when he tried to let go. "Don't leave," she whispered, eyes wide with fear. "I won't," he said softly. "I'm right here." Hannah curled up in the passenger seat. His coat swallowed her tiny frame. The moment the heat touched her face, she let out a painful sob. Not because of the warmth, but because she had been cold for hours, maybe all night. Ethan took a deep breath and closed the door gently. As he rounded the SUV, he glanced at the playground again. The snow there looked untouched except for Hannah's small footprints. No adult footprints. No sign of someone searching for her. No sign of her mother. When he returned to the driver's seat, Hannah tugged his shirt again. "Sir, Mommy told me not to trust anyone here." Ethan turned to look at her. "Here?" She nodded. "She said the people in this neighborhood. They're not safe." Ethan's brows pulled together sharply. He knew the HOA was strict, sometimes too strict, but unsafe, dangerous. Hannah's voice was barely a whisper. She said, "If something ever happens to her, go to the man with the white car." Ethan inhaled sharply. "Hannah, when did you last see your mother?" Hannah sniffed. "Last night, after dinner, the HOA lady came." Ethan stiffened. "HOA lady?" "Yes, the one who always yells at Mommy." Hannah's eyes filled with tears. "Mommy didn't want to sign something. The HOA lady was angry. She said Mommy wasn't following the rules." Ethan clenched his jaw. Gloria Hale, the HOA president. The woman who treated the whole neighborhood like she was the queen of a kingdom built on rules. He had seen her yell at people over trash cans and mailbox decor. But arguing with someone late at night? That didn't sound normal. "What happened next?" Ethan asked. Hannah looked down at her fingers. "I went to bed, and Mommy kissed me. She said she would be back soon." Her lips trembled. "I woke up at night because I heard noises. I called Mommy, but she didn't answer. When I came out this morning, she was still gone." Ethan felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. Something was wrong. More wrong than anything he had seen in this neighborhood. He looked through the windshield toward Hannah's house. A small rented unit at the end of the row, lights off, no smoke from the chimney, no movement inside. Empty, silent, wrong. He turned to Hannah. "We're going to your house. We'll check together. But first, warm up." Hannah nodded slowly, clutching his coat closer. Ethan started the car, his mind racing. Why did her mother tell her to find him? He barely knew the woman. He only saw her twice. Once when she picked up packages at the HOA office. Once when she carried groceries with a look of exhaustion that reminded him of someone he once knew. But still, why him? As he drove toward Hannah's house, Ethan noticed something strange. The neighborhood was watching. Curtains shifted. Cameras turned. A few neighbors peeked from windows but quickly ducked back. And then, he saw her, Gloria Hale, HOA president, standing on her porch, watching. Her eyes narrowed when she saw the little girl in Ethan's SUV. Her expression didn't show concern. It showed annoyance, irritation, fear of being exposed. Ethan met her eyes through the windshield. She didn't look away. She smiled, a cold, thin, calculating smile. A smile that said, "Stay out of this. This is not your problem." Ethan ignored her. He drove past her house and parked in front of Hannah's home. He lifted Hannah again, her little body clinging to him like she had found her only safe place. The front door was slightly open. Ethan's heart pounded. "Did you leave the door open?" he asked softly. Hannah shook her head immediately. "Mommy always locks the door." Ethan pushed it open. The house smelled cold. Empty. The heater was off. A mug of tea sat on the counter, still half warm. A coat lay on the sofa. The carpet showed marks, not footprints, something being dragged. Hannah whispered from behind him, voice trembling. "Sir, Mommy didn't leave. Mommy wouldn't leave me." Ethan felt the truth settle like ice in his bones. She didn't leave. Someone took her. Someone inside this HOA. Someone who didn't want anyone to know. And somehow, for a reason he couldn't understand yet, she trusted him to find her. Ethan stepped deeper into the small house, every corner cold, every shadow heavy, every room holding a quiet fear that clung to the walls like frost. He kept one arm around Hannah while the other pushed open doors carefully. expecting at any moment to find Sarah injured, hiding, or worse. Hannah's small voice trembled against his shoulder. "Sir, Mommy always turns on the heater. It's never this cold. Mommy hates the cold." Ethan looked around the living room. Lights off, couch pillows scattered slightly, a cup of tea half full on the counter, still warm enough that she must have been here only hours ago. Too recent, too sudden. He walked to the table and saw papers underneath the mug, some of them signed, some torn, and one page stood out. A bright red HOA violation notice stamped with Gloria Hale's name. Failure to comply. Mandatory inspection required. Return immediately. Hannah tugged on Ethan's sleeve and pointed at the notice with shaking fingers. That bad lady came last night. She was yelling at Mommy. I heard Mommy crying. Ethan felt anger rise in his chest, sharp and hot, the kind he hadn't felt in years. What time did she come? He asked gently. Hannah sniffed and whispered, I think after dinner, when the clock had the big hand on the 12 and the small hand on the 9. 9 o'clock. HOA inspection at 9 p.m.? No way. Something was terribly wrong. Ethan checked the hallway next, pushing the bedroom door open slowly. Sarah's bed was unmade. Covers on the floor, a pillow fallen off the edge. Her shoes were still beside the bed. Her purse was still on the chair. Her phone lay on the carpet, screen cracked. Nobody leaves their house voluntarily without wallet, jacket, or shoes in freezing winter. Hannah pointed at the cracked phone. Mommy dropped it. I know she dropped it because she always puts it on the charger. Her voice fell into a small cry. Ethan picked up the phone and saw it. One outgoing call at 9:42 p.m. to 911, but the call lasted only 1 second. Just one. Like someone dialed but didn't get the chance to speak. Or someone stopped her. Ethan felt his jaw tighten until it hurt. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He checked the bathroom. Empty. He checked the small office room. Papers scattered. A drawer forced open. He noticed scratches on the wooden frame near the back door. Hannah? He whispered, kneeling to her height. Did anyone else come last night? Hannah hugged herself tightly. I heard men talking. 2 voices. Deep voices. They said, take her and finish it quick. I got scared and put the blanket over my head. I wanted to scream, but Mommy told me never to scream. To hide when she tells me. Her voice broke. I waited and waited. When I came out in the morning, Mommy was gone. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment to stop himself from exploding. This wasn't an argument. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a kidnapping. And the HOA was involved. He stood up and walked to the kitchen again, scanning everything with sharper eyes. The back door lock had been tampered with. Not broken, picked. Professional job. The kind done by someone who knows the house, knows the family, knows how to enter without leaving a mess. A cold draft slipped in from the cracked frame. Hannah clung to Ethan's hand tighter. Is Mommy okay? Ethan knelt again, putting both hands on her tiny shoulders, steady but gentle. I'm going to find her. I promise you, Hannah. I won't stop until I find your mom. Hannah looked at him with big, watery eyes, trusting him with everything she had left. Mommy said you're good. She said you help people. She said you're strong. Ethan froze. When did she tell you that? Hannah blinked. Last week. She saw you helping the old man on Maple Street whose car broke. She told me you're not like the others here. That you're kind. Ethan felt something shift inside him. Something he didn't understand yet. Sarah barely knew him. Yet she trusted him. She told her daughter to find him. Why him? Why not a relative? A friend? A neighbor? Unless she had no one else. Unless she was completely alone in this neighborhood full of people pretending to be perfect but secretly watching, judging, controlling. A sudden knock shattered the silence. Loud, sharp, demanding. Ethan stiffened immediately. He put a finger on his lips, signaling Hannah to stay quiet. She nodded, frightened, and stepped behind a chair. Ethan walked silently to the window beside the door and peeked through the side. His stomach dropped. It was Gloria Hale. the HOA president. Her hands folded neatly, her smile fake, her eyes cold. Waiting, demanding, watching. He opened the door only an inch. Gloria's smile widened slightly. Ethan, how convenient. I heard you found the child. Her tone was sweet but sharp underneath, like honey poured over a knife. Ethan didn't smile back. Where's her mother? He asked directly. Gloria tilted her head. I'm sure she's around. Hannah peeked from behind the chair. Gloria's eyes snapped to her instantly. Hannah, she said in a sugary voice that didn't match her expression. Come here. You shouldn't be out. Your mother is busy. Hannah hid behind the chair again. No, she whispered, afraid. Ethan stepped in front of the girl, blocking Gloria's view. You didn't answer me, he said. Where is her mother? Gloria sighed dramatically, rolling her eyes. Sarah refused to sign the community compliance papers. She caused trouble, broke rules. I had to speak to her. Ethan's voice darkened. At 9 at night? Gloria raised an eyebrow. Rules don't sleep, and neither should troublemakers. Ethan resisted the urge to slam the door in her face. What did you do to her? Gloria smirked. I did nothing. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. But you should stay out of this. This is HOA business. Ethan didn't move. Taking a child's mother is not HOA business. Gloria's smile faded slightly. Careful, Ethan. Even CEOs must follow rules. Ethan met her gaze with unbroken intensity. And even HOA presidents must answer for crimes. Gloria blinked once, a flicker of anger passing through her eyes. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. A big one. Bigger than kidnapping? Ethan asked. Gloria's jaw tightened. She stepped back slowly. You've always been a smart man, Ethan. Don't become a foolish one. She turned and walked away, her heels leaving neat prints in the snow. But when she reached her porch, she looked back once more. Not in fear, but in warning. A silent message. Stop, or you're next. Ethan shut the door. Hannah ran to him and hugged his leg tightly, shaking. Sir, she scares me? Ethan rested a hand on her back. She scares everyone, sweetheart. But she's not taking you. He walked toward the hallway again, scanning for anything he missed. He needed answers. Fast. Hannah tugged his sleeve. Sir, can I show you something Mommy hid? Ethan looked down at her. What is it? Hannah pointed toward the basement door. Mommy said, if something bad happens, show the nice man with the white car the box downstairs. Ethan felt a chill that wasn't from the cold. She told you that? Hannah nodded softly. Yes, Mommy said it's very important. Ethan opened the basement door. Cold air rushed out like a warning. The stairs creaked under his weight as he carried Hannah down carefully. The basement was small, filled with old boxes and tools. But one box stood out. Metal, locked, hidden behind bags of winter clothes. Ethan dragged it out. Dust coated the top. Hannah whispered, Mommy said this box has things that prove the bad lady is doing wrong things. Ethan's heart pounded. He unlatched the box. Inside were documents, contracts, financial papers, eviction notices, all with Gloria's signature and illegal changes. Ethan's breath caught. This wasn't just corruption. This was crime on a massive scale. And Sarah discovered it, which meant the HOA silenced her. And they would come for Hannah next. Ethan slammed the box shut. He picked Hannah up, holding her tightly, feeling her shiver against him. We're leaving, he whispered. We're getting out of this house. We're going to find your mother. Hannah clung to him. Will you really help us? Ethan kissed her forehead gently. I won't let anything happen to you. Hannah's voice was broken and small. Mommy said you're brave? Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of everything falling onto his shoulders. Then I need to be brave now. He carried her up the stairs, grabbed the metal box, and stepped outside into the freezing morning. The snow blew against his face. Across the street, Gloria's curtains shifted. Watching, waiting. Ethan unlocked his SUV and strapped Hannah inside. Where are we going? she asked softly. To find your mother, Ethan said, voice steady. And to end this HOA nightmare. Ethan started the SUV and felt Hannah's tiny hand slip into his sleeve again, like she was scared he might disappear the moment she blinked. Her eyes were fixed on the window, watching the house she grew up in get smaller as the snow blew harder. She whispered quietly, "Sir, if Mommy comes back and I'm not there, she'll be scared." Ethan looked at her, voice soft but firm. "Your mother would never want you to stay in danger. We will find her, and we will keep you safe until then." Hannah nodded slowly, trusting him with a kind of innocence that made Ethan's chest tighten. She leaned against the seat, still wrapped in his oversized coat, still shivering slightly even with the heater on. Ethan drove toward the HOA main office first. If someone wanted to hide something, the office was always the best start. But the moment he reached the intersection near the clubhouse, he noticed the cameras. They were all turned. Every single HOA camera in the neighborhood, hundreds of them, pointed toward his SUV. Direct, tracking him. Gloria's doing. Ethan slowed the car just enough to understand the message. She was watching every move, every turn, every breath. Hannah saw the cameras too and whispered, "Sir, Mommy said they watch everything, even when people don't know." Ethan's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. "I know, Hannah, but they're not going to scare us." He turned toward the clubhouse. The parking lot was empty, except for 2 HOA-branded cars and Gloria's red SUV parked under the canopy. The snowstorm had grown heavier, painting everything in white, except the fear sitting in Ethan's chest. Hannah suddenly sat up straighter. "Sir, Mommy was here last week. She said she had to talk to the HOA lady, but she came home crying." Ethan took a sharp breath. "She came here?" Hannah nodded. "She told me she found something important. She said she wouldn't let bad people hurt our neighbors. She said she would stop them." Ethan exhaled slowly. Sarah wasn't just any mother. She was brave, she was determined, and her goodness put her in danger. He unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay inside, sweetheart. I'll be right back." Hannah grabbed his hand. "Please don't leave me." Ethan leaned down. "I'm not leaving you behind. I'm just checking the door." Hannah's eyes filled with fear, but she nodded. Ethan stepped out into the biting wind and approached the clubhouse entrance. The door was locked. He pushed harder. Still locked. But then he noticed something strange. Footprints in the snow. Small ones. Big ones. Drag marks. The kind left when someone was forced or carried. Ethan felt a jolt inside. He followed the prints toward the side of the building. There, under the emergency exit door, he saw it. A strip of fabric caught under the metal frame. Light blue. Soft. Thin. He pulled it out. A scarf. He recognized it immediately from the picture he saw on Sarah's dresser earlier. A scarf she always wore. Hannah's voice echoed from inside the SUV. "Mommy's scarf." Ethan's jaw clenched. Sarah was here. Sarah struggled here. Sarah was taken from here. He walked back toward the SUV when he suddenly heard a car engine behind him. A silver HOA patrol car pulled in slowly, headlights bright, tires crushing ice. 2 guards stepped out. Men he had seen around but never paid attention to. They both looked at him with blank faces, like they were reading a script. One said, "Mr. Cross, the clubhouse is closed this morning. Routine maintenance." Ethan stared at them. Maintenance in a snowstorm? The guard shrugged. HOA rules. That answer meant nothing. It only confirmed they were hiding something. Ethan didn't reply. He simply walked back to the SUV, opened the door, and sat inside. Hannah looked up. "What happened, sir?" Ethan held out the scarf. Hannah's eyes widened, tears forming instantly. She grabbed it and hugged it hard. "This is Mommy's. She never leaves without it." Ethan swallowed hard. "Hannah, this means we're close. Your mother was here. We're going to find her." Hannah nodded, but her face showed pain too deep for a child to carry. Ethan put the car in reverse, but then he saw something that made every muscle in his body stiffen. A shadow in the clubhouse window. Someone watching them. Someone hiding. Someone waiting. But when Ethan blinked, the curtain slid shut. He didn't like this anymore. Not the cameras. Not the guards. Not Gloria's silence. Not the missing pieces of time. Not the heavy tension in the air. He drove away, needing to escape the eyes watching him. As they turned the corner, Hannah whispered, "Sir, can we go to Mommy's friend?" Ethan looked at her. "Does your mother have a friend here?" Hannah nodded. "Miss Bennett. She lives near the mailbox area. She always brings us cookies. Mommy told her everything." Ethan's heart picked up speed. "Did she tell her about the HOA lady?" "Yes. Mommy said Miss Bennett was scared too." Ethan didn't waste a second. He drove straight toward the mailbox lane, the place where residents usually avoided talking too long, so the HOA wouldn't accuse them of loitering. He parked near the cluster of community mailboxes and saw the house Hannah pointed to. Pale yellow walls, snow-covered garden, curtains drawn tight. Ethan carried Hannah to the porch and knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Nothing. Hannah pulled his sleeve. "Miss Bennett always wakes up early?" Ethan knocked a third time. Still nothing. He stepped back, scanning the porch. Snow was untouched. No footprints around the door. No sign of recent activity. Too silent. Too still. Then Hannah whispered, "Sir, look!" She pointed at the small side window. There was a curtain slightly open, and behind it, a faint blue glow from a TV. Someone was inside. Ethan knocked again, louder. "Miss Bennett. It's Ethan Cross. We need to talk." A faint shuffle came from inside. Then the door cracked open only 2 inches. A shaky old woman's voice whispering, "Ethan? Why are you here?" Ethan stepped closer. "It's about Sarah. She's missing." The woman gasped softly. She opened the door wide enough for them to slip in and then locked it instantly behind them, turning 3 bolts with shaking hands. Miss Bennett, an older woman with gray hair and tired eyes, looked terrified. She kept glancing at the windows as if expecting someone to be watching. "Come in quick," she whispered. Hannah ran to her and hugged her. Miss Bennett held her tightly. "Oh, sweetheart, you're freezing." Ethan stepped closer. "What do you know about last night?" Miss Bennett looked around the room again before she spoke, voice trembling. "I knew it. I knew this would happen. I told Sarah weeks ago to leave this place." Hannah clung to her dress. "Where's Mommy?" Miss Bennett swallowed hard. "Sarah found something. Something she shouldn't have seen." Ethan nodded slowly. "The documents in her basement." Miss Bennett's eyes widened. "You saw them?" Ethan nodded again. "I saw enough to know the HOA is involved in something illegal, and Sarah discovered it." Miss Bennett started crying quietly. "They warned her. Gloria warned her. Told her she would regret opening that box." Hannah hugged her tighter. "Miss Bennett, where is Mommy?" Miss Bennett looked at Ethan with helpless eyes. "I don't know exactly, but last night, I heard something. I heard a truck, a door slam, and then I heard Sarah shout." Hannah gasped softly. "Mommy screamed." Miss Bennett nodded. "I tried to look outside, but the HOA cameras turned toward my house the moment I moved the curtain. I got scared." Ethan felt something burning inside him, a rage he rarely felt. "Which direction did they take her?" Miss Bennett pointed toward the far end of the neighborhood where a large building stood, an old HOA storage center that hadn't been used for years. "There," she whispered, voice shaking. "I saw men pulling something, or someone, toward that place." Ethan's breath left him in a sharp exhale. He knew that building. Everyone avoided it. No lights, no residents, no reason to go there, unless you wanted to hide something, or someone. He picked Hannah up again, feeling her small arms wrap around him tightly, her fear mixing with the cold air. "We're going," he said. Miss Bennett grabbed his arm. "Ethan, please be careful. Gloria is dangerous. She owns the cameras. She owns the guards. She even owns the police here. Don't let her catch you." Ethan nodded once, eyes narrowed with determination. "I'm not afraid of Gloria." Miss Bennett's voice broke. "Then fear what she does to those who stand in her way." Ethan looked at Hannah. "I promised your mother I would find her, and I will." No matter what. Hannah whispered back, I trust you. Ethan walked toward the door, snowstorm howling outside, danger waiting at the old storage building. The moment he stepped out, the cameras turned again, tracking him, watching him, warning him. But Ethan didn't stop, because Hannah needed her mother, and Sarah needed to be saved. Ethan stepped back into the freezing storm with Hannah in his arms, the wind hitting his face like sharp needles. But he didn't flinch. He tightened his grip around the little girl as she pressed her cheek against his shoulder, her tiny fingers curling into his coat, scared but trusting him completely. The neighborhood around them looked even colder than before, as if every rooftop and every window was holding its breath, watching him, judging him, warning him not to take another step. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Not anymore. He placed Hannah inside the SUV again, buckled her in gently, and turned the heater up. Her breath was still shaky, her eyes still wide with fear, but there was something new in them now, a small spark of hope. She whispered, Sir, are we going to find Mommy now? Ethan nodded with steady determination. Yes, Hannah. I promise you, we're close. I won't let anything happen to her. Or you. Hannah hugged her scarf, her mother's scarf, so tightly Ethan could feel the ache in her tiny arms. She leaned her forehead against the window, watching the snowstorm swirl like ghosts around the houses. Ethan started the car and drove toward the old HOA storage building, the one Miss Bennett told them about. It stood on the far end of the neighborhood where houses thinned out and streetlights flickered weakly. On the way there, he noticed something that made the hair on his neck rise. Every house he passed had curtains slightly open, neighbors pretending to fix blinds or wipe windows but actually staring at him. Some with worried eyes, some with frightened eyes, and some with eyes that almost looked apologetic, as if they knew something terrible but couldn't speak. Suddenly Hannah whispered, voice soft but sharp, Sir. The cameras moved again. Ethan's jaw tightened. She was right. The street cameras had shifted, following his SUV like metal eyes, watching, recording, reporting to Gloria. He turned the corner sharply, leaving the main road behind. The houses ended. The streetlights became fewer, and then the massive, dark building appeared through the fog of snow. The old HOA storage center at IT looked abandoned. Broken windows, rusted metal door, vines crawling up the side like old veins. No lights inside, no sound. Nothing but cold, heavy silence. Hannah gripped his sleeve again, her tiny voice breaking. Sir, Mommy doesn't like this place. Mommy always walked faster when we passed here. Ethan put a hand on her cheek. That's why we're going to go in together. You're not alone. He parked the SUV at a distance to avoid the cameras directly above the door. Hannah hugged herself tightly, trembling, but she nodded when Ethan said, I'll carry you. The wind blew hard as he stepped out with her, his coat wrapped around her, protecting her from the cold. The snow crunched under his boots, each step loud in the silence. When they reached the storage building door, Ethan paused. The lock wasn't just broken. It was smashed from the inside. Someone wanted this place secure. Someone didn't want anyone entering or escaping. Ethan pushed the heavy door open. It screeched loudly, an eerie metal cry echoing through the empty halls. Inside was darker than night, with only faint light slipping through broken windows. Dust in the air, cold rising from the floor, and something else. Something that sent chills through Ethan's spine. A smell. Faint, metallic, fearful. Hannah buried her face in his chest, whispering, Sir, I don't like this place. Please don't leave me. Ethan held her closer. I'm not leaving you, sweetheart. We'll find your mom and go home. He stepped deeper inside. His shoes echoed sharply. The building was split into storage rooms on each side. Old furniture, boxes, rusted shelves. But something was off. Too many things out of place. Too many footprints in the dust. Footprints of heavy boots, drag marks, even small handprints on the wall. Ethan's heart twisted. Was Sarah dragged through here? Did she fight? Was she scared? Hannah pointed with shaking fingers. Sir, that's Mommy's glove? Ethan followed her gaze. There, near a broken crate, lay a small black glove women's size. He picked it up. It was warm, not ice-cold like everything else in the room. Recent. Very recent. Hannah gasped softly. Mommy was here. She was really here. Ethan felt anger burn deeper now. They took a mother from her child. They hid her. They lied. They deleted cameras. They controlled the neighborhood like prisoners. And they expected him to walk away? That would never happen. Not today. Not ever. He walked forward until he reached a wooden door with a metal latch on the side. The latch was bent, as if someone had forced it shut or kicked it open. He pushed the door slowly, creaked loudly, almost painfully. Hannah held her breath. The room inside was even darker, with only a thin line of light leaking through a crack in the roof. Ethan stepped inside, carefully scanning every corner. Then Hannah whispered something that froze him. Sir, I hear something. Ethan paused. Where? He asked. Hannah pointed with tiny trembling fingers toward the corner behind stacked boxes. Ethan listened. First there was nothing. Then he heard it. A soft, weak sound, a faint thump. Then another, like someone trying to move. Someone too weak to stand. Someone alive. Ethan moved the boxes aside one by one, the wood scraping loudly against the concrete. The sound repeated. A soft knock. Then silence. Then a small, broken whimper. Hannah covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. Sir, is that Mommy? Ethan pushed the last box aside, and his breath left his body. Because there, in the far corner of the dark, cold room, was a piece of blue cloth at a sleeve, a shaking hand at a woman's figure slumped against the wall, barely conscious, hair messy, face pale, lips trembling as she tried to breathe. Sarah, Hannah's mother, the missing woman, alive, but barely. Hannah screamed, Mommy! And tried to run to her, but Ethan grabbed her just in time, whispering urgently, Wait, sweetheart. She's hurt. Let me check. First. He rushed forward. Knees hit the cold ground. He leaned close. Sarah's eyes fluttered open, weak and distant. When she saw Hannah behind Ethan, tears fell instantly from her eyes. She tried to speak, but her voice was broken. Hannah? Baby? You're safe. Ethan's heart slammed inside his chest. She recognized her daughter. She recognized him. She tried to lift her hand toward Hannah, but it trembled too much and fell back. Ethan caught it before it hit the floor. Sarah? He said gently. We're here for you. We're taking you home. Sarah's eyes filled with fear and urgency. She whispered, barely audible, Ethan, they know you're helping us. They're coming. You need to go. Hannah burst into tears. Mommy, please come home. Please. Sarah tried to sit up but winced in pain, her body too weak. I told you, find the man with the white car. I knew he would help you. Ethan felt something heavy settle deep in his chest. He didn't know why she trusted him, but she did. And she was right to. He slid his arms under her gently. But then, a loud slam shook the building. Footsteps. Multiple, heavy, fast. Coming straight toward them. Sarah's voice cracked in fear. It's them. They found us? Ethan lifted Hannah with one arm, Sarah with the other, and whispered with iron in his voice. Then they'll have to go through me first. Ethan tightened his grip on both Hannah and Sarah as the footsteps outside the storage room grew louder, heavier, more organized. Whoever was coming wasn't just one person. It sounded like 3 men, maybe 4, boots hitting the concrete floor with a rhythm that told Ethan one thing. They weren't searching. They already knew exactly where he was. Sarah's breath trembled as she whispered weakly, Ethan, they locked me here. They said I should have stayed quiet. They said no one would care if I disappeared. Hannah clung to Ethan's neck, her tears soaking into his coat as she sobbed. Mommy, please don't leave me again. Please don't. Ethan pressed his cheek against her forehead for 1 second, enough to whisper, I'm not letting them touch you or your mother. Not today. Not ever. The footsteps stopped just outside the room. Silence. Cold, sharp silence. Ethan could feel all 3 heartbeats in the room. Sarah's weak and slow, Hannah's fast and terrified, and his own pounding with a fire he had not felt in years. He looked at the doorway. A shadow moved, then a voice, deep, rough, familiar. "Open the door, Cross." Ethan recognized it immediately. The HOA head enforcer, a man named Dwayne, always seen with Gloria, always angry, always watching. Ethan didn't move. He held his ground. Dwayne continued, "We know you found her. Hand them over and we won't make this messy." Hannah cried harder. Ethan whispered, "Shoo, I've got you." He shifted his body slightly, positioning Hannah behind him, shielding Sarah with his other arm. Dwayne's voice grew sharper. "Ethan, last warning." Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. There was no talking to people like Dwayne. They were already too deep inside Gloria's control. Another voice joined him, this one colder, more dangerous. "Break the door." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Another man. Maybe two. Heavy thump. Another. The door shook. Then again, harder this time. The metal vibrated. Sarah's fingers dug weakly into Ethan's sleeve. "Ethan, please, take Hannah and run." Ethan turned to her, voice low but fierce. "I'm not leaving you here. I don't abandon people." Another slam. The hinges groaned. Dust fell from the ceiling. Hannah whimpered and pressed her face into Ethan's shoulder. Ethan scanned the room rapidly. Boxes, old furniture, broken shelves, nothing useful except. His eyes landed on a rusted metal bar lying near an old toolbox. Perfect size. Heavy. He grabbed it quietly, placing Hannah gently into Sarah's lap. "Close your eyes," he whispered to Hannah. She nodded, shaking. Sarah held her tightly even though her own hands trembled with weakness. The door slammed again, this time so hard a crack appeared in the wood frame. Dwayne shouted, "3!" Another slam. 2. Ethan braced himself, gripping the metal bar tightly. 1. The door burst open so violently the hinges tore off and clattered onto the floor. Snow-filled wind rushed in, mixing with dust and the sound of heavy boots storming inside. 3 large men entered, Dwayne in front, 2 guards behind him. Their eyes locked on Ethan, on Sarah, on Hannah. Dwayne smirked. There she is, the troublemaker. His eyes slid to Ethan, and the hero who picked the wrong side. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence enraged Dwayne. "Move!" Dwayne snapped, stepping forward. "Give me the girl and the woman." Hannah cried louder. Sarah shook her head weakly. Ethan didn't move. Dwayne scoffed. "Cross, don't be stupid. You're not the police. You're just a CEO. You can't fight us." Ethan stepped forward, just one step, and said one cold, solid line. "Try me." Dwayne's face twisted in anger. He lunged. Ethan swung the metal bar with full force. Not wild, not sloppy, but controlled and precise. Years of gym training, boxing therapy sessions, everything he used to release stress, suddenly became a weapon. The bar connected with Dwayne's forearm, hard. Dwayne screamed, stumbling back. The 2 guards rushed forward instantly. Ethan dodged the first, hitting his shoulder with the metal bar. The guard fell against the wall, gasping. The second guard tackled Ethan to the floor. Hannah screamed. Sarah tried to crawl toward them but collapsed. The guard tried to punch Ethan, but Ethan twisted his body, pinned the guard's arm, and slammed his elbow into the man's face. The guard collapsed, blood from his nose staining the dusty floor. Dwayne, furious, charged again. Ethan got up fast, blocking the blow with his forearm, the force jolting his bones. Dwayne grabbed Ethan by the collar, shouting, "You're dead, Cross. You hear me? Dead." Ethan grabbed Dwayne's wrist and twisted it sharply. Dwayne howled. Ethan shoved him backward into a stack of boxes that exploded into wood and dust. Without waiting for more, Ethan grabbed Sarah into his arms again, lifted Hannah with his other, and moved toward the exit fast. But Dwayne wasn't finished. He crawled to his knees, panting, eyes burning with hatred. "Gloria will destroy you," he hissed. "She runs this neighborhood. She runs the police. She runs everything." Ethan stopped at the doorway and looked back once, eyes cold like the storm outside. "Not anymore." Dwayne's face twisted as he reached for his walkie-talkie. screaming, "Back up! Back up!" Ethan sprinted out of the room, Sarah in one arm, Hannah clinging to his neck. Snow blasted them the moment they stepped outside, wind ripping through the broken windows, howling like something alive. Ethan ran across the lot, boots slipping on ice but his grip never loosening. Hannah sobbed into his shoulder. "Sir, please hurry, please hurry." Sarah weakly whispered, "Ethan, leave me. Take her and run." "No," he said sharply. "I'm taking both of you." They reached the SUV just as another HOA patrol car entered the lot, headlights flashing through the storm. Ethan unlocked the SUV with shaking fingers, placed Hannah inside gently, then lifted Sarah into the back seat. He slammed the doors shut just as two new guards stepped out of the second car, shouting, "Stop the vehicle!" Ethan didn't look back. He jumped into the driver's seat, turned the engine, and floored the gas pedal so hard the SUV launched forward, spraying snow behind like a wave. The guards ran toward him, but the SUV shot past them. Tires skidding, engine roaring, heart pounding, Hannah crying, Sarah whispering his name weakly. The patrol car started pursuing instantly. Ethan gripped the wheel. The snowstorm thickened, visibility almost gone. But he kept going. Faster, harder, determined. Behind him, the HOA car's siren blared, lights flashing through the white storm. Hannah sobbed, "Sir, they're coming." Ethan reached back with one hand, touched her knee briefly. "I'm here. I won't let them take you." Sarah weakly lifted her head, eyes half open. "Ethan, they won't stop. Gloria won't stop." Ethan pressed his foot harder on the gas. "Neither will I." And with that, he drove deeper into the snowstorm, away from the storage building, away from the danger behind them, and straight toward the final truth waiting ahead. The SUV tore through the snowstorm like a desperate heartbeat, engine growling against the icy roads as Ethan drove with one hand on the wheel and his eyes flicking between the rearview mirror and the trembling figures in the back seat. Hannah was curled up tightly, Ethan's thick coat wrapped around her small body, her tears mixing with the fog on the window. Her tiny hand clung to Sarah's cold fingers, refusing to let go even for a second. Sarah, weak and barely conscious, tried to open her eyes fully, but they fluttered helplessly. The exhaustion too much, the trauma too fresh. Ethan kept glancing back, voice steady but filled with fire. "Stay with me, Sarah. Don't fall asleep. Stay awake. We're getting you help." Sarah breathed out a faint whisper. "Ethan, they hurt me. They wanted the files. They said no one will believe me." Her voice cracked. "They said I'm just a renter. Just nobody." Ethan shook his head fiercely, gripping the wheel tighter. "You are not nobody. And I believe you. I saw the evidence. You were brave enough to expose them." Hannah wiped Sarah's face with her tiny sleeve, whispering brokenly, "Mommy, please don't sleep. Please don't leave me again, please." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand weakly, the movement barely there, but it was enough to break Ethan on the inside. He pressed harder on the accelerator. But the danger wasn't behind them anymore. It was everywhere. Through the thick sheets of snow swirling like ghosts, Ethan noticed black SUVs pulling out from two side streets. HOA vehicles. Unmarked. Fast. Coordinated. It wasn't just one car chasing them anymore, it was three. And they were surrounding him like wolves closing in on a bleeding target. Hannah saw the lights behind them and screamed, "Sir, they're here again." Ethan's breath sharpened. "Don't look back, sweetheart. Look at your mom. Keep talking to her. Keep her awake." Hannah nodded quickly, brushing snowflakes off Sarah's hair. "Mommy, I'm here. I didn't leave you. I found the nice sir like you said. He's helping us. Please stay awake." Ethan turned sharply onto Crestline Road, tires skidding dangerously before gripping again. The chasing SUVs copied his every turn, speeding up. One of them came so close it nearly clipped the rear bumper. Ethan forced the wheel right, barely avoiding a collision. Hannah yelped in fear. Ethan whispered, "It's okay. I've got you." But then came the worst possible thing. A fourth SUV appeared ahead of them. Blocking the road, Ethan slammed the brakes. Snow exploded under the tires as the SUV skidded sideways, stopping inches before crashing into the black vehicle in front. Hannah cried out. Sarah gasped in pain. Ethan shielded them both with his arm. Behind them, 2 more HOA vehicles boxed them in. They were trapped, surrounded, outnumbered. The storm howled around them as if nature itself was warning them to run. But there was nowhere to go. Ethan's breath steamed the windshield, his pulse hammering in his ears. Hannah whispered, "Sir, what do we do?" Ethan squeezed her hand. "Stay behind me, no matter what." He opened the driver's door slowly, stepping into the storm, snow hitting his face like icy shards. The men stepped out of the surrounding SUVs. 5 of them, tall, strong, dressed in dark winter gear, their faces covered, their movements too calm, too controlled. They weren't neighbors. They weren't security. They were hired muscle. HOA hired muscle. The man in front, tall with a scar running down his jaw, pointed at Ethan and said calmly, "Hand over the woman." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Over my dead body." The man shrugged. "That can be arranged." Ethan stood his ground. "She needs medical help. She's freezing. She's hurt. She's not going anywhere with you." The man stepped closer. "We don't need her alive. We just need the files she found." Ethan didn't move. The man nodded at 2 of his men. "Get the child first. The mother will follow." Hannah screamed inside the SUV. "No!" Ethan felt every muscle in his body ignite. "Don't touch her," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Not one step closer." One of the men smirked. "You can't fight us all, Cross. You're one man." Ethan stepped forward. "One man is enough if he has something worth fighting for." The scarred man pulled a metal baton from his coat. Ethan braced himself. But before the man struck, the back SUV door opened, and someone stepped out. Gloria Hale, the HOA president. Her perfect hair now windblown, her thick coat dusted with snow, her lips curled into a cold smile that didn't even attempt to hide her intentions. She walked slowly toward Ethan as if this entire storm belonged to her. "Ethan," she said softly, "you should have stayed out of this. You made this so much worse than it needed to be." Ethan didn't reply. His silence was louder than any threat. Gloria tilted her head. Sarah wasn't supposed to find the files, and her little daughter was supposed to stay quiet. But now you've interfered. And unfortunately, we cannot allow that. Ethan took a step forward, blocking her view of the SUV. "If you come near that child, I will." Gloria lifted her hand. "Enough." Her guards stepped closer. Gloria's eyes narrowed in annoyance. "Give me Sarah. Give me the girl. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let you walk away. After all, you're a valuable resident. We don't want to lose a successful man like you." Ethan laughed once, humorless and dark. "I'm not giving you anything." Gloria sighed. "Then you're choosing the hard way." She signaled her men. 2 guards moved toward the back door. Hannah screamed again. Ethan snapped. He charged. He tackled the first guard with the force of a man who had nothing left to lose, slamming him into the snow. The second guard swung his baton at Ethan, but Ethan blocked with his forearm, ignoring the pain, and punched the man in the jaw so hard he fell to his knees. The storm roared around them as the fight erupted in chaos. Ethan fought like a man possessed, like a father protecting his own family. He dodged, struck, blocked, grabbed, shoved. Snow exploded with every hit. But there were too many. One guard grabbed Ethan from behind, locking his arms. Another punched him in the stomach. Gloria watched calmly, satisfied. "Take the girl," she said coldly. Hannah's scream hit the air like a knife. "Sir!" The scarred man reached for the back door. And then everything happened at once. Sarah, weak and barely conscious, pushed the SUV door open with shaking hands. Her voice cracked as she screamed, "Don't touch my daughter!" She lunged forward, falling into the snow, crawling toward Hannah with everything she had left. "No! Mommy!" Hannah tried to climb out too. Ethan roared in rage, pure, raw, terrifying. He threw his head backward, smashing the guard's nose behind him. Blood sprayed. The man loosened his grip. Ethan elbowed him in the throat, sending him collapsing. Ethan stumbled toward Sarah, his vision blurry from the fight. He pulled her into his arms, covering her from the guards. Gloria shouted, "Grab them!" But then sirens. Real police sirens. Dozens. Loud. Close, a flash of red and blue lights burst through the storm. Someone had called real authorities, not HOA-controlled units. Actual city police. The guards panicked. Gloria's eyes widened for the first time. Fear cracking her cold facade. Ethan stood, holding Sarah and Hannah both in his arms, staring straight at Gloria as city police cars skidded into the street, doors flying open, officers stepping out with weapons drawn, shouting, "Drop your weapons! Hands in the air!" Gloria's empire had just crumbled, and Ethan had just saved them. The snowstorm flashed red and blue as dozens of police cars surrounded the scene, sirens cutting through the frozen air like sharp blades. Hannah clung to Ethan's neck, trembling so hard her tiny fingers dug into his coat, while Sarah leaned weakly against his chest, gasping for breath. Her face pale but her eyes filled with a fierce, desperate relief. Ethan held both of them tightly as if protecting something priceless. Because he was. Real officers stepped out. Not the HOA-controlled ones, not Gloria's puppets, but actual city police with authority, uniforms dusted in snow, weapons drawn, voices commanding. "Everyone freeze. Hands up now." The guards who had been so confident minutes ago instantly stiffened, their bravado melting like snow in fire. They dropped their weapons into the snow and raised their hands. One officer shouted, "Step away from them. Move back slowly." Ethan didn't move. He didn't need to. He wasn't the threat. He was the one who survived it. Gloria Hale stood in the middle of the chaos, her perfect coat blowing in the storm, her fake smile gone, her eyes wide with shock she couldn't hide anymore. She raised her hands slowly, her voice trembling for the first time ever. "This is a misunderstanding. This is HOA business, not—" "Shut your mouth," an officer barked at her. "We have kidnapping reports, assault reports, witness statements, and a citywide alert about a missing woman. You are done." Gloria's perfect hair blew wildly across her face as she snapped, "No, no, you don't understand. They're lying. She's lying. She tried to expose me. She tried to ruin everything." "Everything," Ethan said, stepping forward. Sarah supported in his arm, Hannah gripping his hand so tight her knuckles turned white. Ethan's voice was steady like iron through the storm. "You mean the illegal money you stole? The fake violations you forced on people? The families you threatened? The people you kicked out? The files you hid?" Gloria's face drained of color. "You have no proof." Ethan reached into his pocket. The cold metal box key, the USB drive, the documents, all of Sarah's courage in one small place. "I have all the proof," he said calmly, "and it's going straight to the police." Gloria lunged forward in panic, screaming, "No, no, stop him. He can't." Police grabbed her arms instantly, shoving her back. She fought like a person watching her empire collapsing in front of her eyes. "This is my community. I built this. You can't do this to me." Ethan's voice was so cold it silenced even the storm. "It was never your community. You were a bully hiding behind rules." Gloria screamed until her voice cracked, her words fading under the sound of handcuffs clicking around her wrists. "You're all making a mistake. I was the only one keeping order. I was the—" A police officer pushed her into the back of a car and slammed the door shut. Silence followed. Heavy, deep, emotional. Hannah immediately pointed at the locked police door, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Sir, she can't hurt Mommy now?" Ethan knelt in the snow, holding her small face gently. "No, sweetheart. She will never hurt you or your mother again." Hannah threw herself into his chest, sobbing with a mixture of fear, relief, and exhaustion that only a child who has survived too much could feel. Sarah reached out weakly, touching Ethan's shoulder, tears slipping down her pale cheeks. "Ethan, thank you," her voice cracked. "I thought I'd never see her again. I thought I'd never see anyone again." Ethan wrapped his arm around her, steadying her fragile body. "You're safe now. I promised your daughter I'd find you. I keep my promises." Sarah's fingers tightened around his sleeve. Her eyes filled with gratitude, so deep it broke something inside him. Officers rushed toward them with blankets and medical kits. A paramedic knelt beside Sarah, wrapping a heavy blanket around her. "Ma'am, you're in bad condition. We're taking you to the hospital immediately." Hannah panicked. "No. Don't take Mommy away from me again, please." The paramedic smiled gently. "Sweetheart, you're coming too. We just need to help her get warm and safe." Hannah clung tighter to her mother's arm until Ethan placed his hand softly on her back. "Listen to me, Hannah. You're going with your mommy. I'll be right behind you. I'm not leaving you." Hannah looked up, eyes filled with trust so pure it felt like a weight on Ethan's chest. "Promise. Promise." Hannah nodded and held Sarah tightly as paramedics helped them into the ambulance. Before the doors closed, Sarah looked at Ethan, her voice barely audible. "Ethan, you saved my life. You saved my daughter. How can I ever?" Ethan shook his head softly. "You don't owe me anything. Just get better. That's all that matters." Sarah's eyes shimmered with tears. "You're the only person who believed me. The only person who cared." Ethan swallowed hard, unable to speak. Hannah tugged Sarah's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, can he stay with us? Please?" Sarah smiled weakly, tired, broken, but finally safe. "Yes, baby, he can stay." The ambulance doors closed, blue and red lights reflecting across the snow as it drove away. Ethan stood in the storm, breathing hard, watching until the ambulance disappeared down the street. Police cars remained, arresting the guards, talking to neighbors, shutting down the HOA building. Officers approached Ethan. "Mr. Cross," one said respectfully, "you're a hero today. Without your actions, we might never have found her alive." Ethan didn't reply. His eyes were still on the road where the ambulance vanished. His thoughts were still with the girl who held his coat, the mother who trusted him before she even knew him, the family he never knew he needed. Hours later, at the hospital, Ethan sat in the hallway outside the emergency room. Snow melted from his coat. His hands trembled from exhaustion. But inside that room, Sarah and Hannah were safe. Together. Alive. When the doctor finally came out, he smiled. "They're going to be okay. The little girl keeps asking for you." Ethan nodded and walked inside. Hannah jumped off the hospital bed the moment she saw him and ran into his arms with a cry that sounded like pure relief. "Sir, you came." Ethan lifted her gently, feeling her tiny heartbeat thump against his chest. "Of course I came." Sarah looked at them from the bed, her eyes soft, filled with tears. "Ethan, thank you doesn't feel enough?" Ethan shook his head again. "You and your daughter don't deserve anything that happened. I'm just glad I found you in time." Hannah leaned back slightly and touched Ethan's cheek with her small frozen hand. "Sir, can you stay with us now, please?" Ethan looked at Sarah. She was smiling softly, a tired but genuine warmth in her expression. "We'd like that," she whispered. Ethan inhaled slowly, feeling something inside him shift. Something warm, something real, something he hadn't felt in years. He nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." Hannah hugged him tighter, her tiny voice muffled against his shoulder. "Sir, can I call you something?" Ethan smiled. "What?" Hannah whispered, her voice small and full of hope. "Can I call you family now?" Ethan closed his eyes as a tear escaped down his cheek. He held her and Sarah both, gently, protectively, fiercely. "Yes, Hannah," he whispered. "You can." And for the first time in years, Ethan Cross felt like he wasn't alone either.